Great. Welcome, everyone, for the final session. I think after this, you have got the closing note, and it is all nice to meet you. I'm Anu. I'm from Wellington, New Zealand, and I'm going to introduce you to the Azure Synapse database templates. It's really an interesting topic because I love data a lot, and I've been Microsoft MVP for AI as well as data platform, and I have been working as a data and AI consultant for the past decade or so. And my passion is all about data, and in whatever ways I can expose the data for my customers, I thoroughly enjoy doing that. And thanks for all the organizers and volunteers of Data Toboggan. This is a really cool session dedicated for Azure Synapse Analytics. And this is a product that needs really more exposure. I think we have already got a lot of exposure, but I think a lot of things like even about database templates, it is something new, and there are some new features that are still in preview stage, which I wanted to share. And I'm not sure how many people have heard about database templates within Synapse before. So that's why I thought it's a nice topic to present at this session. Just a quick thing about myself. I told you I'm from Wellington, New Zealand, and you can call me as Anu. And I just to do my own consulting for my customers back in New Zealand. And of course, I'm a Microsoft certified trainer too. So I do take trainings and speak at a few conferences. And I really take my real world consulting experiences and infuse that in my training. And that's why I like to do both at the same time. So if you have any questions post this session, feel free to reach out to me through my social media channels. I have listed this here. And also I'll put these slides back, submit these slides back to the presenters and the organizers so they can just post it on the website. First of all, like a quick agenda of the things that I'll be covering in today's session. First thing is to introduce you to what is this Azure Synapse database templates. So you've been all knew about Synapse Analytics, like it is a one-stop shop, like where you can do the modern data warehouse, implementing a modern data warehouse end to end. So, but we also discovered yes, of course, we can do visualizations with that, we can do machine learning capabilities with Synapse Analytics. But what are database templates? So what is this functionality actually gives to you all? Once I introduce you to the database templates, I'm going to also show the list of database templates that are currently available with Azure Synapse Analytics. And we will look at a quick demo around how do you create a new lake database, leveraging these database templates that we are going to see. And following that, once you create the database, the lake database, it's all about how do you bring the data into the lake database. And to make our job really simple and easy, Microsoft also have provided as a map data tool, which is basically a graphical user interface that will allow you to get the data into the lake database that we will be creating. And of course, you can train machine learning models using the new database, the lake database. And of course, I'll share some references, and towards the end of the session, I'm open to take up some questions. So without any further delay, let us quickly get into what Azure Synapse database templates are. So as you all know, data takes many forms, right? So it moves from different set of source systems to data warehouses, data marts, and the prime intention for that is to solve your customer business problems. Database templates, they are pretty much been useful in this journey where it can turn the data into more like an insights. So what is this database templates is all about? It is pretty much like a blueprint which contains both your business and technical data definitions. So if you take any particular industry, right, whether you're taking an airline industry or an insurance industry or banking industry, they all deal with a certain set of data. So it can have an banking industry, you may have an account, you may have a customer, you may have a contact, and then you may have a lot of tables related to transactions and so on. But if you look at it, that industry has been there for decades, and they follow a similar pattern. Of course, they bring in new ideas and business, domains into it. But there are some core fundamental things that are still concrete and doesn't change. So database templates are nothing but they are blueprints, and they have got all these best practices or government regulations, as well as any complex analytical needs that an industry specific data sets that needed to be available. They are all available as part of the database templates. So there are a variety of things that are available in the database templates across different domains. Suppose if you are building a product recommendation solution, right, for your retail customers, so you have to understand like, okay, what does a retail domain should have? What type of tables it needs to have? Like for instance, like what products are available for purchase, like how a purchase can be captured, and how how I can hold customer data, and how can I assign loyalty programs to customers and so on. So while we discuss about this itself, like there are a lot of entities that are coming in here, like a product, customer, loyalty, store, transaction. So these are some of the things that entities that you require. So some of these entities across different domains, they are consistent. So you need to have this base set of entities, and of course you can extend that further along. And that's what Azure Synapse database templates really provide you. So before we look at a bit around the database templates, like I think I want to introduce you to common data model. I think quite a few of you would have known about it, especially like if you have worked with the business application stack, which is like your Power Apps, your Power BI, and Power Automate stuff. So common data model is nothing but a shared database model which Microsoft have created exactly for the same reason. Like there are around lot of domains where there are entities that are more like consistent across these domains. So if I take sales, there are certain entities that are going to be consistent, always going to be created. If I take services, or if I take CRM, there are healthcare, there are going to be domain, like a domain specific entities that needs to be created. So like day in, day out, we see a lot of these organizations which are specific to those domains. They go and create the database. They go and create the same old tables again and again. So what if you give them a templated structure to say, pick a healthcare domain, all the base or underlying tables that you require for the healthcare domain are available here. Of course, you have the ability either to change them or you can extend them with additional tables. That's the concept Microsoft introduced with common data model. So basically, like it has got around 340 plus standardized and extensible schemas, which Microsoft and their partners have basically published. So this particular common data model, you can use that. And they have also called something called as industry accelerators, which platforms like Microsoft Power Platform and Dynamics 365 are already using. So the reason I'm introducing you to the common data model first is exactly the same functionality is what comes along with database templates in Synapse Analytics. So what Microsoft have done is like they have taken this common data model concept and they have established that within Synapse also. So whatever domains that we are talking about, so on the slide currently, you are seeing a list of domains, and we have database templates available for all these domains. I'll showcase it to you shortly via the Synapse Studio. But what you'll get to see here is whether you're dealing with agriculture, like automotive, banking sector, energy or utility sector, logistics, oil and gas, manufacturing, retail, utilities, health insurance, doesn't matter. So whatever domain that I have listed on the slide here, like you have got all the pre-built tables and entities that and relationships between those tables that you need to populate your data. Quite fascinating, right? So to get to see this all pre-built for you, and what you have to do is just set some configuration parameters and start utilizing it. So before I jump on to showcase you about the database templates, I wanted to quickly talk to you about what this lake database is all about. So using these database templates, what we can create is a lake database. So a lake database in Synapse Analytics will allow customers to bring all the data together. So irrespective of like the database design, the metadata about the data, and everything about what you require about those entities, they are all already pre-built and available for you. Including Microsoft provides you a database designer via the Synapse Analytics, where you can go and look at the existing data model of you that was created as part of your database template. And of course, you can extend it. So you can add more entities or make changes to existing entities. And at the end of the day, the data will be stored in the Azure Data Lake. And we will look into that also, like how that will be used. As you know, when you provision Synapse itself, like you are actually provisioning a data lake storage, and that will be pretty much used by your database template also. I think enough of what I have said in terms of concepts, like you got the picture, right? So database templates is nothing but a predefined set of entities that are available, that are specific to different set of domains. Let us quickly jump on to look at a demo on like how do we create a lake database, and also first look at what is these database templates are all about. So let me quickly jump on to my Azure portal here. So what I have done is I have got two Synapse workspaces here. One, I have just created everything pre-built. So just in case if something takes a bit of time, I can jump onto that workspace and show it to you. There is another workspace, which is the demo workspace, which is blank and empty. So I don't have anything in this workspace currently. Sorry, I'll just get back to that. Yeah. So this workspace is, sorry, just jumping on to different things. Okay, so this workspace is pretty much empty in here. I'm going to log on to my Synapse Studio. So with my Synapse Studio, the first thing I'm going to do is to create my lake database using the database templates. So first thing is, let me introduce you to database templates and how to go and find the database templates. So when you open Synapse workspace like this, you may be wondering, where am I going to find the database templates? So you click on the Knowledge Center here. Let me zoom this a bit. So good. Okay, from home, I clicked on Knowledge Center. And from here, as you can see, there is a gallery which allows you to look at some sample code as well as some data sets in here. So let me go and click here. And this is where the database templates are really hiding. So you can get to see a lot of templates that are available, which are specific to a separate different set of domains in here. So the list of domains I have already provided in the PowerPoint slides, they are available in here. So let us start with a retail one, the one which we can easily relate to, and we will click on continue. Okay, just agree to the terms of use. And there you go. So I didn't do much other than like I just clicked on retail, and I have a whole heap of tables already arriving in here that are specific to the retail domain. So there are around 11 tables added in here. I can just zoom this to fit in here. So these are some of the icons that you can use in order to look at things, or you can zoom at individual set of tables, and you can zoom a portion also if you need to, and you can just work in here. Cool. So that's what. But what I have got here is a predefined set of tables that is already available for me for retail. The good thing about here is like some of the things you have looked in here is you have got a channel table, and you have got a customer table, you have a party table, which you know, like whether it's a individual or an organization or a legal entity, you normally store them in there. And the interesting thing is all these entities, they are all part of the industry standard. So if you take the YSS standard for data, like they have got all this like information in terms of how do you store an individual or an organization in a table. So they have an entity called party and they hold it. So those type of best practices are already included in these database templates. And of course, we have a transaction table that holds all the retail transactions in here. And the quite interesting thing is also like you can take any one of this table, and you can see the list of columns associated with the table. And also, let me move this a bit. Okay, you can see all the details about this table. So like what is the foreign keys that are associated, like and also all the metadata. The interesting thing is the description and whether what's the data type that's been used. and any relationships that it has got with other tables. The cool thing is also like you can bring in any new tables also. So it doesn't stop, things doesn't stop in here. So if you want to bring in any new tables, like you can go ahead and search in here. So you have a list of all the different business areas are here. So you can go and search here or expand and say like, okay, if I want to bring something from the financial product, I can bring that entity and drop it into the designer here. So as you can see, like you can easily preview them, and you can also, when you bring in new tables, you can bring in all the related tables associated with that. So what if you are done and dusted? So I have got all the tables that I need for my retail, like a case study or a business scenario here. I can go ahead and create a database, a lake database with all these tables being created. So as you can see, when you're part of creating it, you need to choose a name for the database. And I'll just say like a retail sample. And also like you can look at the settings in terms of what is the link service, what should be the input folder for this, and also the any type of delimited format. The idea behind is like it will store all the data that we are importing it behind the scenes inside a data lake. So now it's time for me to publish. And now this is going to go ahead and publish this. Cool. So while this is publishing, basically like it is going to take all the tables that I have created, and it is going to load that inside the my data lake store itself. And how does it know which is the data lake store it needs to do? When I'm provisioning the Azure Synapse Analytics itself, like I have provisioned like what is the data lake it needs to be connecting to. So that's how it knows like where it needs to be storing them to. So that was a quick demo to showcase to you like the database templates. Where do you find them in Synapse, and how do you go about and pick a particular domain that you have to work with and bring in the data from or bring in the tables to start with from that, and you can add it in here. One of the cool thing also I wanted to quickly highlight here is you can go ahead and start bringing in new tables. So you're not limited with the current tables that you are getting as part of the database templates. So if you have any custom tables, or if you have a data lake already has got some tables which you need to bring it into this model, you can go ahead and select them from here. And you can choose like if I want to bring a custom table, or again from the template itself, or I can bring it from the data lake. I can close this. And if I want to, as you can see, the tables have been created, the ones which I included in my model. And if I want to suddenly, if I realize like, okay, I forgot to bring in an additional table, I may need to extend that model to bring in that additional table. I can just go here and I can say open, and this is going to open the database designer for me. And this is what I call it as the designer. And it also highlights to me saying like, where am I bringing these tables from? So I can see like all the different tables that has been brought from which areas in here. So moving on from this. So as I said, like there is a variety of database templates available, and all these templates come up with a pre-built set of tables. So as you know, tables are the set of entities that you require for all these different domains. And then you have got, second, let me get this. Yeah, so then you have got your columns associated with each and every table, your primary key, your foreign key, your composite key, and any relationships that it needs to be dealt with. They are all available as part of the templates. There are what we classify them as within the database templates as enterprise templates, because these are the database templates which each and every enterprise will be more interested in their specific industry. When I talked about table partitions, because we are going to store this entities as well as the associated data in a data lake, the tables like the data will be partitioned for the table for better performance also. And these partition settings are also configured, and they are available as part of provisioning your database templates with the lake database. So moving on from that, how do you go about modifying a lake database, which we saw briefly, and the ability for you to just go ahead and launch the database designer, and you can go ahead and say I want to bring it from a custom table. So you can provide an external table from existing data lake and the link service associated with that, or you can go ahead and use a custom. So you can go ahead and create a table. So at runtime, you can add a new table, add columns associated with that. The interesting thing is where it will be persisted is it is going to be persisted in the same data lake storage where the other tables are going to be persisted too. Okay, so let me close this down. I'm not going to accept this. So that's how you can go ahead and extend your lake database. So the options that are available for you for extension is you can bring in create custom tables. You can bring it from the template itself. You can go back to the database template and add any additional tables that you initially forgot to include, or you can take it from any of your existing other data lake. So as an organization, you may have some other data lake that is not specific to the Synapse data lake. And if you have got some data held in that and you want to bring it over here, you can easily add it to this model from your existing data lake also. So that's a mechanism how you can go ahead and modify a lake database. Saying that, I want to also share about one more thing, which is we always looked at, okay, how do we go ahead and use the data lake, create a lake database, right? But how do you want, if you want to create an empty lake database? So currently I took a retail or any particular business domain and I was extending, right? So, but I want to do it in a different fashion. So let me jump on to my Synapse Analytics here. So I'm going to close this down. So what if I want to create a new lake database, but I don't want to jump on to do with any template or anything in here. So I'm already in my data space, and you can see here I have one lake database. So I'm going to go and click on here. You have the ability to either go and create a lake database here, or you can browse the gallery. So I'll go and click on a lake database. So here I'm actually creating a new database. This is like an empty database, which has opened up my designer. I can go ahead and give saying maybe empty DB sample. And same thing, so it is going to be pointing to my data lake storage. And what I can do is if I just go ahead and start looking at adding tables if I need. So if I go here, again, the options are there where I can bring in tables, create custom tables, or I can go ahead and bring in tables from my template or from my data, like some other data like I have got here. So the point is, like, if you want to start from a blank slate, because a lot of people, like, they don't want the predefined stuff, like they like the concept of templates. They like the concept of the different standardized entities that are available, but they don't want everything to be brought in together in one instance. So they want to pick and choose what they really need for their application in their domain. So if you belong to that category where you don't want to bring in everything and then start messing up with things, you can create your own empty lake database. And then you can gradually start bringing in the tables from a respective domain that you are interested in from the database template gallery itself. So that's another way of how do you bring in tables and you can publish it. So now the entities have been created, right? So the entities are there, you have created it. But what is the next thing you need to do? The next thing you need to do is how do we bring the data into those entities? So that's where the map data feature in Azure Synapse Analytics, which is going to be helpful for you to bring in that data. So the map data tool, what we call it as, is a process, like it's a no code mapping tool, which is going to create like ETL mapping. So ETL is nothing but like you have source data, you have got the Synapse Lake database. You have to bring the data from the source database into the Lake database tables, right? So you have to create some mapping between the source and the target destination in here without writing any line of code. So basically how it starts, it is like you choose the destination tables in the lake databases, and then you start mapping that to the source data into these tables. So as I said, like you can start, like you can generate the mapping data flow without even like starting from scratch itself. Like you can just say, this is my destination, this is my source, and then you can start mapping the columns in there. So let us quickly look at like how does this mapping tool looks like, and how do you go about doing that in the lake database. So let me quickly jump on to that. Wait, let me get my Synapse in here. Okay, so what we are going to look at is like how do we go about and do the mapping in here. So when I'll close this empty one in here. So let us focus on the retail sample. Okay, so in the retail sample, what I am going to do is just right click on here and open. So just to bring my designer back. So one of the cool thing that you can see here is the map data. So note it down. This is a preview feature also. That is something to keep in mind. So if things work, then it's fine. If not, like I'll just explain you the concept of how does the mapping works in here. I think it is thinking a bit. Pull this way here. Okay, great. Okay, so it just sets up, the first thing is showing you to turn on the data flow debug. So basically like the data mapping assistant, what it requires is an active data flow debug session. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this on and use integration, auto resolve integration runtime in here. And now this is going to spin up a cluster. So what this is going to do is it is going to keep the cluster ready, and it will going to warm up the cluster for my session. And once it is warmed up, pretty much what I can do is I can start bringing in the data from the different source types and map it to these tables. So let me quickly check whether it has. Yeah, it is starting. While it is doing, let me quickly check whether my other one has got a cluster already running. So while that is doing, so the cluster that it is going to spin up, it is going to help us to import the data from source to destination. There are different types of file formats that are supported as part of this ETL or the import process. You can use the data from common data model. You can bring in data which is a delimited text, or you can bring in data which is a Paki files or something. So you have different set of data stores that you can, files that you can store it in data lake storage that you can bring in here. Okay, cool. So let us get into the data. We have the lake database in here. I think that this is also going to get the cluster ready. Hopefully it's done. Okay, while this is getting ready, let us quickly look at what you can really do with the mapping tool. So once the cluster is ready, what you can do is the first thing it is going to go and create is like you have to select the source. So you create a new mapping, and as part of the new mapping, you have to select the source. The source can be a common data model database, or it can be Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. So again, this is an option that it gives you currently. So these are the two data sources that are currently supported in the preview mode as we speak. So which is the Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 and your common data model database. So you can pick the files that are sitting in here, and you can easily map that to the destination tables that are sitting within the lake database. So the mapping will be similar to how you saw that in Azure Data Factory, right? where you can see the source column, the destination, and you can easily create the mapping one-to-one, or you can just use the column mapping in there to map this column relates from source relates to this column in the destination. So the mapping tool is pretty much uses the same functionality as your Azure Data Factory or your Synapse pipelines. And the cool thing is it's a wizard experience. It's a complete like a no code tool where you can bring in the data from your source into the lake database destination. Cool. So let us look at how do we clone a lake database. So if you have an existing lake database and if you want to just take a copy of that and to play with, there is a clone capability that is available, and we can see how do you execute that. Cool. I think cool. So I think the cluster is ready. So I should be able to showcase that before we jump on to the cloning functionality. Okay, so the map data view. So this is the data mapping assistant tool that we talked about, or the map data tool. You select the source. The source can be either a data lake storage Gen 2, and you select the link server. And as you can see, it can be a common data model, or it can be a delimited text or a packet file. So you can choose the common data model, and of course you have to search for that data available in your data lake storage into. So this is a newly provisioned one, so I don't have anything running currently. But the idea here is like you can choose any of these files from your existing data lake storage, or like, and then you map it to the destination lake database that you have created. So that is what you will be getting subsequently. So this is the source. And once you select the source, you jump on, you will be mapping it to a table in the destination, and you can create the mapping flows. And when you execute it, at the final step of that is actually creating the pipeline. The pipeline is actually created. And then when you run the pipeline, you take the data from your source and pump it to your destination in here. It's really simple. If you have experience working with the ADF or Azure, the Synapse pipelines, it should be straightforward for you to use the map data feature. So moving on from that, like you have the ability also to clone the lake database. So I can go here and say, I want to clone this. And then you go like, I have got the copy in here, and I can say, yeah, I will change this to copy and I'll publish it. So now I have got a new copy of the lake database that is already available, and I can just work on that copy. So this is really handy, like if you want to take a backup, or you want to take a backup before you want to play with certain things, you can go ahead and do that in here. Not only cloning can be done at the database level, you can also do cloning at the table level. So when you click on any particular table, I can go ahead and clone this if I need to. So that capability is also available in here. And yeah, so every table you choose, you can also like look into the relationships associated with that. Yeah, so as you can see, these are the relationships that are linked with these tables. The another cool thing is when you are bringing in new tables, right? So if you're bringing it from the gallery or something, let us quickly look at that. Suppose I'm going to bring in something like not the geography. Let me take emissions. You have this capability of whether you want to bring in the related tables in here, which you can say like, okay, bring in all my related tables, and it brought some of the related tables in here. Sometimes it can look over cumbersome because you will think all of a sudden there is a whole heap of tables that will be added. And if it is so confusing for you and you want to just take one, add one table at a time, you can just always, there is a rollback capability available in here. Just zoom to fit. Yeah, undo last action. So you go back and undo that. So now you like the related tables are totally removed from the model itself. So that's another way what you can do is like you can just click on add related tables to get a feel around what are those additional tables that are related with this particular table that you can bring back into this model, and you can assess if you really need it. But at any point in time, if you feel like this is overwhelming, you can always just use that functionality, which is like undo my last action, and you can roll back your changes. And the cool thing I really like about is the metadata that I really get out of all these tables or entities that comes out of the database templates. Well documented, and you have description for each table as well as at the column level, like for each and every table. So here you can see the list of columns, and as I said, like each and every table column is also having the proper metadata associated with that. So the last part, which I think we already saw, is all about how do we create like empty tables in lake databases in there. So the lake database empty one, you can just go ahead and create a new empty lake database, start bringing in the tables that you require. So either those tables can be your custom tables that you are bringing in, or from an existing data lake, or you can browse through the gallery and you can bring it there. So let me quickly showcase the gallery, just because I was pretty quick in terms when I showcase the gallery. I'll quickly show you like what are the different domains that are available. So if I go back in here, browse gallery, here in database templates, you can see the different things. So what I would suggest you is, depending on the domain that you want to work with, like even you can just play with each and every domain. Just click on that. It will automatically bring the tables associated with the domain. Let us try and do that with banking quickly. So this is now bringing in some of the core tables that are required from a banking perspective. And this is also loading all the other tables that are available. So when I say banking, it is not going to bring in every single table into the designer to start with. There will be some core set of tables it will be bringing in. But what you have the ability is you can search for any tables using the search capability in here, or you can go and expand these business areas and you can pick and choose the table that you want to bring into this designer. So keep this designer as if like a simple way of how do you actually create data models using your database designer. Cool. So hopefully that would have given you quite a good introduction about database templates and how can you use database templates within the Azure Synapse Analytics. So if you're working on industry specific like a domain, and if you want planning to use Azure Synapse Analytics, I would say like don't try to reinvent the wheel. Try to pull some of these entities directly from these database templates and start looking at that, like whether you can utilize them, and you can just pump in the data from your other transactional data stores into the Synapse Analytics data store. If you can do that, it is well and good, because you are using like an industry standard, the templates that are following the best practices, and pretty much like you can also extend it. So the extensibility is also in there. So a lot of people get afraid of using industry specific templates. If I recollect, most of the times I go there because they said like, oh, we don't want to get locked on. Our business is a bit different. Our domain is a bit different. We don't always use all these columns. We want to have the ability to create new columns, new set of entities. This is what I really hear from my customers, and they are afraid of get locked in with a templated pattern. But I think this particular database templates, it supports quite a good extensibility. So your customers doesn't need to worry about they're going to get locked down and they can't extend this at all. So they can bring in their own data if they require, and their own schema if they need it, like in terms of custom tables, and they can pump in any type of data directly mapping into those tables. And with the help of that map data tool, the mapping process or importing the data into the tables created via the database templates, Synapse is making it really easy for you. So there are quite a few references which I have shared in my slide pack. So this gives you an introduction about database templates as well as like a common data model. So if you are new to common data model, there is a useful GitHub link which I have given in here. So that gives you an introduction about common data model, what these entities that are available, what are those industry best practices which Microsoft and along with their vendors they are following and they have also followed in order to build these entities. And there are some more data lake concepts that you can get to know about, like the demos which I showed you, like how to go and create your first lake database from any of the existing database templates. How do you go about customizing it using the database designer? And how do you use that map data tool? So that's a cool tool. I would suggest you to use it and take an industry specific domain, get the entities in there, and then start pumping the data using the map data tool. And pretty much after that, you can use the lake database for any other analysis that you do with Synapse Analytics. One last thing before I wrap up is I also touched upon machine learning capability, right? So you can use this lake database and you can build machine learning models. I think there was a session earlier today, like where it talked about like how to do machine learning within the data that is stored in Synapse Analytics. Of course, with the database, you will be able to do that. So the lake database is typical like your any other database you provision as part of your Synapse Analytics. The only difference here is you are taking the industry specific entities, importing it, and then getting the data imported from your different data stores. And pretty much after that, it is typically a data store sitting in your Synapse Analytics. All the other things that you can normally do, like build visualizations over that or build machine learning models or like incorporate machine learning models into that data lake store or lake database, you can pretty much do all those things out of the box straightforward with that. So they are based off the Synapse Analytics functionality that can be done over the lake databases also. So with that note, like that's pretty much what I wanted to cover in the session. So a quick introduction about the lake databases and what are the industry domains that are already available where you can get the entities imported in a straightforward fashion. And if you want to build a lake database from scratch, like you start with something and then wherever possible, you want to pick and choose the tables from the gallery, you'll be able to also do that. And if you're comfortable doing that, I would always recommend that to keep your data model clean. And yeah, with that note, I think if I have any questions, I'm happy to take some questions right now. And if you have to reach out to me through my LinkedIn or my Twitter or my email address, feel free to do so.